Going to take a quick break and talk about Drizzly. Drizzly is fantastic. It's the most convenient way to buy beer, wine, and spirits with delivery to your doorstep. And get this, under 60 minutes. It's insane.
Yeah, I think what's also great is you can compare prices and shop different places and get your best deal.
And you're shopping and you're doing a lot of cooking during the holiday season and you're all busy and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need that bottle of wine.
Wrapping presents and you don't want to have to take time to run to the store.
Or you forget a gift.
Yeah.
And you need it delivered real quickly. Here's the way to do it. You download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. And Drizzly is giving every new customer $5 off their first order. What's that promo code, Seton?
FAST5 at checkout.
FAST5 at checkout. It's drizzly.com.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Impact of Influence. The tragic story of a powerful South Carolina family and the mysterious deaths that they are linked to. Welcome back to the podcast. We again are humbled by the great response that we are getting to the podcast, which we started off thinking, maybe mom and dad will listen, maybe. And it's been overwhelming. We thank you. And you were just on, first of all, I should say I am Matt Harris from 107.9, the new Mix 107.9 with Matt Ramona Show in the morning. And she is Seton Tucker. You can find her on Facebook, Seton Tucker. And you just did a Facebook Live the other night, so we should give a shout to those folks.
Yes, the Tales of an Educated Debutante. It was so fun. I had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but she rolls with it, and she was very gracious to have me.
Excellent. So, again, thanks for being here. Here we go with the latest, because honestly, sometimes our heads are spinning by the amount of great insight you guys are sharing with us through either mattharris1028 at gmail.com or Seton Tucker Facebook page or Matt Harris Facebook page. Many rumors, many we can't report, but we do have things that are official. For instance, let's go to the church footage, because when Alec was shot on Saturday, I was on the Nancy Grace show on Tuesday, I think, maybe. And so I started going down the path of looking at all the videos from people that put up on Twitter. And we mentioned it on our podcast a few days ago, too. And I saw that there was a church on that road. So I started efforting to try to figure out what that church was. And it was St. John's Baptist Church. And I believe it's the 1400 block of the Sakahachi Road. Is that how we learned how to pronounce it?
I think that's right.
And
is it road or highway?
I think it's road.
Okay.
Yes, old Sakahachi Road near Varnville. And the church, which is a pretty good-sized church, is like the 1400 block. So I said at the time, wonder if they have footage, what if there's video cameras? And we hadn't heard anything about that. And then, lo and behold, on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, you heard a report from...
Well, actually, I was watching the Today Show, and I'd listened to you on Nancy Grace, and I think this was Wednesday. And was it Wednesday or Thursday? Not sure. But they said that SLED came in and confiscated the camera footage from the church before anyone else had a chance to work. So this is obviously going to be a very crucial bit of information.
And we'll explain why it's even more important in just a couple of seconds here. But one of the things we had said on the podcast after that Alec was shot was, if a car, like he said, passed him and turned around, the tire marks would have been, and there's no way on that road, because we've been on that roads, that there's no way you're doing a turn in a truck and not going off of the road, because they said they wouldn't be able to get tire tracks if it was on asphalt. But I'm like, that truck had to go at least in part of the field or berm or whatever to leave tire tracks. However, we find out later, and we'll get to why that is kind of null and void when we start talking about this. The Island Packet reported about Alex Murdaugh's attorney, who has gone into deeper detail as to what Alex's story is the day of the shooting, and a church plays a big role in it. What do we have on that news from Alex's attorney?
Well, so his attorney is really responding because he's saying there was a lot of doubt about his story, and he's saying that Alex's injuries were not self-inflicted. So he kind of goes into some more detail about what happened, and he says that the driver of the truck rolled down the window, came to a stop, and asked him if he was having car trouble.
Now, I want to stop just for 1 second, because important in the fact that everybody was wondering, well, how does he get the flat tire thing? He didn't look like he was changing a flat tire. He didn't But we had reported in the other podcast too that he wasn't necessarily changing the tire. He was inspecting the tire.
Right, and he actually, what he says to the Island Packet was that his indicator light came on, so he had gotten out of the car.
Okay, so there you go. So that's
it's
a little
kind of
bit
exactly
different story.
what we had kind of thought that's possible.
Well, the question is,
reason why
how
he was
long does
out.
the light take to? I mean, should you get in the car and go, and it takes that long? If a tire's been punctured, I don't know.
Right. Well,
He's only 7 miles from home or whatever.
Right. They did say that SLED told the attorney that there was a slash mark. So I don't know if your tire is slashed, how long it takes,
Right.
if they're the tires that don't deflate, or
How long does it for a light goes on a really good Mercedes SUV? Okay.
So what his lawyer reports is that he had pulled over, obviously, to inspect the tire and got out of his car when the truck passed. He says the pickup truck then turned around at the St. John Baptist Church and drove back to where Murdaugh was inspecting the tire.
So which if there is footage, it would show that it becomes more important because it was actually right in the parking lot.
And that's why there were no tire tracks, but would definitely, if that camera footage is working, would corroborate his story.
Right, exactly. So what happens next?
So then the driver rolled down his window, came to a stop, and asked him if he was having car trouble. And that's when he was shot.
Gotcha. He went on to say, we're talking about Alex's attorney, Mr. Griffin. He says that Alex said he didn't know if he could change a tire nor whether he had the equipment to do so. And then Murdaugh was shot. So this has been a big question. It's almost like he's reading or hearing what everybody's saying.
He could have listened to our podcast.
Yeah, he could have, because he's going, or anybody was questioning us all over the social media and whatnot. It was about that whole tire thing and that Mercedes SUV. Do they have the different kind of tire?
Run flat tires.
Do they even have a spare? Do they, all that sort of thing? And he covers that here almost as if, like he's answering the people on social media. Like, I didn't know.
But
Alex didn't know.
He does also give a description. He said the driver was male and that he was driving a blue pickup truck. And, we talked about the last podcast that SLED did have a sketch artist try to do a composite, but they weren't happy with it. And Alec wasn't happy with it either, so it was not released.
Exactly. And we're taking a little break to talk about something we have fallen in love with, which is Green Chef. Seton, you just told me you're ready to go order some more, and so am I.
Yes, I love it. There's so many definitely choices, and everything is pre-portioned, easy to follow. It makes cooking really simple, especially for a weeknight.
Yeah, we're so busy, everybody running around doing their things with kids and whatnot. So just get the Green Chef out. It's one little bag. You're good to go. It's America's #1 meal kit for eating well, meaning the best meal kit, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just want to eat more balanced meals. This is the way to go. And the family loved them?
They love them, and I don't have to go to the grocery store.
That's right. That is a big thing. They come right, and you don't have to worry about missing an ingredient. Go to greenchef.com/Murdaugh10 and use code Murdaugh10, MURDAUGH10, to get 10 free meals, including free shipping. Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well. I'm going to pause for a moment and talk about Warby Parker. I've used Warby Parker for glasses for a couple of years now, so I'm so happy they're signing on as a sponsor for the podcast. And Seton, I know you love the try.
Yes, this is the first time I tried Warby Parker, and I ordered my 5 pairs for free, and you have 5 days to try them on. There's no obligation to buy, and they ship for free, and they include a prepaid return label, and I love the selection. I found out I have a wide face, and the Daisy Wides were the ones that worked best for
Nice.
me, and my husband complimented me on them, which is not like him to notice my granny readers.
And the glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. Don't let your FSA or HSA dollars go to waste. Put them to good use on Warby Parker prescription glasses, prescription sunglasses, contact lenses, and eye exams. Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free at warbyparker.com/Murdaugh. That's warbyparker.com/MURDAUGH. Now, what I find, let's go through this more, and then I'll find some questions I have. Alec is in drug treatment, plans to meet with Sled again after he completes the first phase of his detox, Griffin said. This is from the Island Packet. In a statement released, a spokesperson for Sled said Murdaugh sustained a superficial gunshot wound to the head and called 911 at 1:34, was airlifted. Now, things get even more interesting to me because the attorney continues to talk, right?
Well, he describes the injuries, which were much different
Yes.
than the injuries that were described by Sled. Right. So he says that
When you
there
say
was.
he, you're talking about Griffin, the
Yes.
Alex attorney, right?
Right. So he says there was an entry and exit wound. He says a skull fracture, minor brain bleeding in 2 places. So that sounds a lot different than superficial wounds, which is what Sled said. But we do know he was only in the hospital a short time. So.
Right. But I don't know medically if it's more, it's as he described, but it's not something you have to stay in the hospital very long
They
for.
do try to kick you out fast.
Yeah, especially
these days.
now with the COVID and all. So I also want to, this is interesting that Griffin said, and he obviously has been reading what's been being said in the newspaper and stuff. So the Island Packet holds the whole thing with Alex attorney Griffin. It says, I don't think you choose to have a flat tire or stage a flat tire to commit suicide. That makes no sense. There are many things being reported that are incongruent.
Right,
Griffin said there was no gun found on the side of the road, in Murdaugh's car, or in the area by Sled. And then we go from there into this whole Good Samaritan thing. What's that say?
Right. So 2 Good Samaritans found Murdaugh injured at the scene and took them in his car. Murdaugh called 911 from the car, and the people delivered him to an ambulance further down the road. And that's when he was airlifted to Savannah. So we don't know who these Good Samaritans are. If you're out there and you want to talk to us, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, what I don't understand, I know Sled has been throughout this entire thing, going way back to the boating with Mallory Beach, and even Stephen Smith. They are not very forthcoming agency. They've had to been sued a few times by Post Courier and others to get information for Freedom of Information Act. But you're talking about a mother and son shot and killed, and now you have an attempted murder of Alec Murdaugh's life. It would seem like Sled would need to make a statement about 2 murders and an attempted murder.
Right. That they're not, either they don't believe that there was an attempted murder on him because they've not, had an APB out, or they're,
Well, maybe they do, but I would think if there was a bolo or an APB, it would be leaked. But it could be out without. But see, now, one of the reasons they don't leak them sometimes or don't tell is because they don't want every guy in a blue pickup truck to be pulled over or like by citizens or
Right.
whatnot. But now the word is out that it's a blue pickup truck from the attorney. It would only make sense then you would think that Sled would say, okay, here's the information we know, help us, or something
right.
like
We
that.
have confirmation,
I don't get
especially
it.
now. We don't know whether the video showed anything or not from the church, but if they had video from the church, you would think that they would release that to try to help find.
And maybe they kept it to themselves at first because they didn't want this massive group of civilians going after this truck. But now that the word is out, right, you would think there's no reason. I don't
There's
understand.
no reason not to.
Or
issue
they
a
haven't even come out
statement.
and said, don't worry, anybody. Don't worry. It's not just, people aren't going to be shot driving around Hampton and Varnville and places like that. You'd think they would say something like that.
Yeah, because they did say that with Maggie and Paul's murder that there was no threat to
Well,
public
it was
safety.
Colleton, right, that came out and said that.
Yes.
So SLED didn't comment. I still don't get it. We're time of this recording. It's the Friday after the Saturday when it happened, and there has not been any kind of SLED statement from Crosby, and I just don't understand.
Now we do also, but they did release the police report from that day, and
Yes.
yesterday everyone went crazy about it because in it there was a box check that said no visible injuries. So that was yet another confusing thing, but I think that was just a mistake. They just checked the wrong box.
Right. He said a computer glitch, but I thought it was actually physically done by the. But you know what? You probably entered on the computer, so they
Right.
said computer glitch. But I don't know why. That doesn't matter either way. I think it has to be a mistake. There's no way that a police officer says there's no visible injury and then sees the guy get life flighted off. That wouldn't even make sense. So I got to assume that was just an accident. So I think can't read a lot into that. So we have all that going on. And also, a little side note kind of thing, I guess, from Fitz News, that the Mallory Beach family attorney has filed it's a protection claim before the lawsuit. So basically, the Murdaugh family doesn't sell off properties.
But probably when they found, all the news broke about Alec leaving his law firm and money
Yes,
missing,
yes.
they were like, oh, holy
Lock it
cow,
down.
we need to lock it down because we have this active civil litigation going on and we want to make sure that we protect our claims to anything.
Right. The two properties owned by the Murdaugh family that they mentioned, the Moselle property, which we've talked at length about, which is where Paul and Maggie were found dead, and the coastal property, which is where Maggie's lived for the last few years, we understand, is in Edisto on Big Bay Drive. So they want those, the beach lawyers want those properties locked up, and that makes sense. So is that just about everything we have for this pod?
I think
We
that's
will
it.
keep bouncing back in when we can. You can get a hold of her at Seton Tucker Facebook, Matt Harris Facebook from the Matt and Ramona Show, 1079 to link, or Matt Harris 1028 at gmail.com. Lots of really positive feedback and some things that are important for us to understand. Sometimes some low country people have pointed out pronunciations of things, and also I've had some people give me explanations of guns, and so it's all great. It's all great that you send us these things, and we take the criticism well as well. We need that. I also want to thank our buddy Dwayne, Crown Town Records on Instagram. You can find Crown Town Records. We use his music studio and pretend we're rock stars and do the podcast.
He's
So,
a great producer.
everybody, thank you again. If you would please rate, if you're on Apple Podcasts, please rate. Spotify, just follow and keep on listening. Thank you. Talk soon.
Gearheads know that some projects need so many parts, it feels like you need a whole storage unit just to store them. That's what eBay Motors' 122 million parts are for. Think of it as your virtual parts garage. They've always got the right fitment at the right prices. Use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast. It's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.